Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey Success Stories podcast. I'm Jennifer Shuffle, your host today, and I have with me Dave Knox. He is the executive director of Blue North in our Cincinnati region. Today, we will be going and talking about Blue North, his journey into Blue North, what all they do for our region, and really have some best practices and probably some challenges along the way, because that's what journeys are all about. So we will get a sneak peek behind the scenes about Blue North with Dave today. So if this is your first time on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe because we want you to have notifications when we have new shows, new conversations, and just like this one, whenever they drop. So, Dave, welcome to the show and thank you for being here today. I would love for you to take a second and really tell us a little bit about you, your background, who you are, and fill us in about Blue North.
Hey, well, thank you for having me, Jennifer. It's a pleasure. So, start with my journey. I kind of always describe this as the fourth chapter for me when I look at my career. So, the journey has been I started at Procter and Gamble. Ultimately, was one of our founders of our corporate digital strategy team in the late 2000s. Then went to the second chapter where I had a chance to go on my own. Was the chief marketing officer of a digital agency called Rockfish. Helped open the office here, and then on the nights and weekends was the co-founder of the Brandery, which was a startup accelerator in town, along with a few other really good buddies. Then the third chapter happened in late 2017, early 2018. We had sold Rockfish to WPP, the world's largest advertising holding company. We had kind of wound down the Brandery and moved it on to its next phase that became Main Street Ventures. And at that time, I went independent, had a book that came out called Predicting the Turn that was talking about the battle and the opportunities of startups and big companies. That had me on the road doing keynote speaking. Also was doing advisory work, mostly later stage with startups that were trying to really tackle their executive marketing questions of how they structure, what's their strategy, what do they do. That path even took me of randomly buying a small natural pain relief cream company that was called Nature's Willow. So ran that for a couple years. And then the fourth chapter began in mid 2022 when the leadership here in Northern Kentucky asked if I'd be willing to step in as the executive director for Blue North. And Blue North is the innovation hub for Northern Kentucky. What that means is we're an independent 501c3, but we have a contract with Kentucky's Cabinet for Economic Development to be the front door for high growth entrepreneurship and startups, and really be that umbrella that helps Northern Kentucky achieve what its potential is when it comes to entrepreneurship and everything else.
That's so amazing. I love it because Northern Kentucky really is on the cutting edge when we think about our what we're bringing to the market in these startups and with all the innovation that's really going on in our region. It's really, really amazing. So you've done all sorts of really cool things. The book, having businesses that you've then transitioned into other things and been bought. And what's been your absolute favorite that you've done so far?
Yeah, it's like the question of who's your favorite kid. It's not a good question for an answer. For me, everything has been a branch on a tree with different things that evolve and grow and take different shapes. And frankly, the favorite part has been the connections that you build one day that you had no idea that was going to be a connection later on down the road. You just let's take the Brandery as a prime example. That we started that in 2010. Fast forward today, and one of my co-founders of that was JB Kropp, who is now the CEO of Centrifuge, who, you know, I'm running the entrepreneurial support program for Northern Kentucky. He's running it for Cincinnati. And combined, we can really help figure out what this startup Cincy looks like overall. And it's all just building blocks and all things that build and evolve, and everything had a reason for what that part played in your life at that moment and where it led to in other parts.
Yeah. So tell me more about Blue North. How many employees does Blue North have? Like, are there certain great passion projects that you guys got going on right now? Like, fill me in a little bit.
Yeah, so Blue North is an intentionally a small but mighty organization. A lot of philosophical reasons for how we structure and how we think about it. But as we record it today, we're at 2 employees. So it's myself and Reese Watson, who's our chief of staff for the business. We are actually adding our third employee that will be our operations lead for Spark House, which is one of those big initiatives that we'll get into and discuss. So we have a really small team when you look at that. But one of the intentional goals is this is about the community that loves Northern Kentucky and is building their businesses here. So we've actually built the team, being the team is the community. So we also have a program called Brink that we run that is supporting early stage startups. With that, we have about 5 traction advisors that are donating their time to be these hands on mentors and entrepreneurs and residents. We also have our Entrepreneur Leadership Council that's composed of about 25 different leaders from across the community, being both founders, investors, and other entrepreneurial support organization leaders. And combined, all of them are part of the team, including our Blue North board. So while we have 3 of us that are on staff, I'd argue we have a team of about 40 that are the ones pushing this entrepreneurship and this
Hmm.
opportunity for Northern Kentucky ahead. So when you think about that, we do break into a few different major initiatives, I would call it. So the first and the biggest is we spend 50% of our time one-on-one helping founders. That's what our job is to roll up our sleeves, figure out what they're faced with, and where can we help? What are the roadblocks? What are the connections? It's old fashioned, but how do we open up the Rolodex to really lend a hand across the board? So that's job number one, and kind of I call it program number one. Program number two is identifying those problems that are holding entrepreneurs back and creating unique ways to go solve those. And we've done that in a few different ways. One of my favorite ones we launched was something called the Resilience Accelerator. So we launched that in, I believe it was late 23. And we did that in partnership with Dr. Lena Ellinger. And it was a program that was focused on founder mental health. And, founders have to put on this strong appearance at all times. And it's tough. It's a roller coaster of what it means to be an entrepreneur, as you know well. And so we created this thing that focused on that. And not only was content that came out, but we also funded sessions with Dr. Ellinger, who actually has a specialty in the mental health side of stress and PTSD and everything else. But then we also created content and programming around it, where we actually put some of our most successful founders on stage to be, you know, vocal about it and to be open and honest about the struggles that they had, and that the ones that you thought that had it all buttoned up were going through it as well. So we've done programs like that. We've done programs that address funding. So one of the things we launched was the Northern Kentucky Entrepreneur Fund. So that was a program to bring more grant funding and more match dollars to entrepreneurs. We brought that to life with a partnership that we had with Main Street Ventures, and also a partnership that we had with the Northern Kentucky Chamber. The result is over the last 2 years, we've given out north of $500,000 worth of non-dilutive grants to 39 different entrepreneurs and startups here in town. So really fun program there. We also have a program called Brink, which is built and raised in Northern Kentucky. We launched that last year, and today we funded about 9 companies with over $250,000 of investment to help them get to that next phase of what they're doing. Then the final program is probably our biggest bet yet, and that is Spark House, which I mentioned earlier. So Spark House is a $17 million redevelopment of what was a Montgomery Ward department store in the heart of Covington, where we are going to make that the entrepreneurial hub for Northern Kentucky and firmly cement Covington as what I call the third innovation district within Startup Cincy. So you have Over the Rhine, you have Uptown, and now you have Covington as that third innovation district. So that is about a 50,000 square foot building that's going to be a home for events, private offices, co-working, and really bringing the heart and soul of the entrepreneurial community together.
Oh, it may sing to my soul a little bit, Dave. I'm just saying, because yes, as an entrepreneur, having the co-working space, I might be a little extroverted. So having that really sings to my soul and really putting on some events, because we do events as well, but really having that epicenter south of the river is just amazing. So there's a couple times you've mentioned Startup Cincy.
Yep.
So elaborate a little bit, and how does everything kind of collectively come together, especially with Blue North, of course, being a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure. So, startup Cincy is a word that started kind of emerging, I would call it, in around 2013, 2014. And the reason that, you know, word, rallying cry, whatever you want to kind of call it, a few of us in those early days of this startup community in the region, we wanted that thing that focused on that last word, community. And, you know, nonprofits, there's amazing organizations out there supporting entrepreneurs. There's great venture funds. But the common thread is everybody's fighting over funding and limited resources and everything else that goes into it. And so the leaders of, at the time, the Brandery, Centrifuge, Cincy Tech, and a couple of others really had this goal of we want all of us supporting and collaborating and working together. And we can't do that if we're just putting our logos up on everything that we have, because then it creates a sense of ownership and other things that can make some people feel like they don't belong because their logo's not there or whatever else it might be. So Startup Cincy was meant to be this neutral third party in a way of this thing that we could all be part of. It could be the community we brought to everyone together on. And it gave us that safe space, for lack of a better term. So that's kind of what was started as. Eventually, over the years, it found a natural home with Centrifuge and running Startup Cincy Week for us and everything else. But today, it still stands for that same original mission, which is it's the thread that brings the community together because, well, you won't find anybody that's more proud of Northern Kentucky and Covington and everything else. We're all part of this greater region, and it's all of us against the world is what we need to be doing. And so that's kind of how we think about it. And that's where we bring Blue North in. We are part of Startup Cincy as a whole. And a Northern Kentucky founder has a unique double hat that they have to wear because they are part of Startup Cincy, but they're also part of Kentucky overall. Whether that's Kentucky Innovation, Kentucky Backed, we still got to get the good language down when we figure it out. But you are a part of two different communities, and we want that actually to be an unfair advantage because you get to tap into the resources that come from both of those communities.
Yeah. So we also have Startup Cincy Week.
Mm-hmm.
When is that? And how can maybe people participate, be a part of, like all the great stuff?
Yeah, so Startup Cincy Week, I should know which anniversary we're in right now, but it's been going for at least 8 years, if not more than that. So Startup Cincy Week this year is going to be the week of October 6th. It is going to be one of the biggest yet and probably busiest yet because it's also going to take place the same week that the new Rooted Festival is taking place in town.
Yes, it is.
So Startup Cincy Week 6, it will be 6th through the 10th. And Rooted, I think, starts on the 8th, I believe. So I think it starts midway through.
Yeah.
Right now, the call for entries and call for content is currently taking place. That's an opportunity for anybody in the community to raise their hand and say, I have something I want to share and I want to support. So that's a great opportunity for anybody to get involved right now and be on stage, whether that's on the main stage, doing a workshop, doing anything else out there. So that's, step number one, I would say for folks. Step number two is this is a community effort and it is meant to be something that is incredibly attainable for everybody to be able to attend. If you go to other communities, a ticket for an event like this is probably going to be a $400, $500 ticket. Startup Cincy makes it incredibly inexpensive. I think last year it was like $50 for a founder to attend. That's able to be done because of the support of sponsors. So I know they're actively looking for businesses that want to be supportive of this community. And that can be everything from providing scholarships for founders to attend, sponsoring a happy hour, sponsoring content, whatever that might be. So that's a second way to get involved. And then the third is by attending. So I think tickets usually go on sale in about August, roughly, kind of once they've got that agenda locked. So that's the third kind of way to get involved and participate. Blue North is super excited. We do an event that this is actually our 10th anniversary this year called Brand Fusion. And it's an event we originally launched alongside the Brandery back in the day. And it is a curated speed dating between the biggest brands and companies in the country and emerging startups. So we have folks like Ford Motor Company, SC Johnson, Procter and Gamble, Kroger, Wilson Sports, etc., all come into town for the event. We usually have about 40 to 45 large big co's, as we call them, and then about 50 to 55 national venture capital backed startups that all come into the region for that event. And last year, I think we curated about 430 individual one-on-one meetings during the course of that event. So that will once again be taking place. We'll kick it off the evening of October 6th, actually with a big party at Spark House this year. And then all
Yay.
day on the 7th, it takes place at TQL Stadium. So every brand gets one of the private suites at the stadium, and the startups go and do all their meetings with them and bounce in between them.
That is amazing. Oh, I don't know about the rest of our audience, but I know I am marking my calendar for sure. And even if people are out of town, I mean, coming just even for the Rooted Festival, like it's going to be so amazing. I'm really excited about all the festivities that we have going on that week, but it's going to be crazy.
It's,
So it's
I'm
it's
glad the kids' fall break is the next week. Let's put it that way. So
I mean, it's oh, I just can't wait. I'm super excited about it. So one of the things that you did mention, and I don't want to dismiss this because a lot of people don't realize how important it is about the mental health component. When I went out on my own, exited corporate America after 20 years and climbing through the ranks, I quickly realized maybe, I don't know, maybe 9 months after I had signed and started my business, I got a mental health coach, and it was instrumental because you will play mind games with yourself. And so I'm thrilled that you guys really nipped that because as startups, we don't realize it until you're really in the fray and you realize all the garbage that goes on in your head. So I just wanted to make sure I paused and said thank you because if somebody's listening right now and you're new to the startup front, definitely get help as far as somebody to coach you through that because it is so important having just the right mindset because you'll wind up self-sabotaging and all sorts of not good stuff. And we want our community to continue to thrive and be at the forefront.
without a doubt. And it's one of our big missions with Blue North. And, one of our founders said it the other day, and I think captured it better than I can say it is we're taking a people first mindset, not a company first mindset.
Yes.
Because I know that even if this might not be the one company that works, it might be your second or your third, but we have to focus on you and we have to focus on that person. And that starts with making sure you've got the right support, the right strength, and everything else that goes behind it.
Absolutely. And Summit Action Coach, yes, I'm business and executive coaching, certified in both, but we have to make sure that you're good or the business will not be good.
Yeah.
So, very important. So, Dave, where do you see 5 years from now? So, let's say 5 years, you've arrived. What does this forefront look like now? And where's Blue North?
Yeah. That is the eternal question of where we're looking and where things are going to go. One is I hope the halls of Spark House are packed and we're bursting at the gills. And we have seen the folks that have moved in this summer to the space, that many of those have graduated to the campus of Covington. And what I mean by that is
Mm.
I want to see somebody that started with a 4 desk office that in 5 years from now, they now have 50, if not 500 employees, and they've left Spark House to take over a building across the street or down the road and made that their home. And they're still coming back and doing team meetings and presentations and events at Spark House as a member, but they've graduated and they've gone on to that next phase. So that we've seen that turnover, that we've seen people come and grow, and some shut down their companies because that wasn't working, but they've started the next one because that they still have the bug. They just know that idea wasn't the right one. So we've seen that, and that place of energy is kind of step number one. Two, with that, is that people know that it's the front door. It's know that when they're new in town or if they're just coming through town and visiting, that if they want to be in that entrepreneurial community, the density exists at Spark House, and that they're coming and they can find that entry point. Versus right now, we've gotten lucky where some have stumbled into finding that support network, and others don't even know that it existed and wish that it did. And this can be that very visual thing that is there. And who knows where that goes beyond that? Maybe we take over some other buildings and keep building out because we've run out of space. But one that's just become that home of the community, and it's that starting point. So I think that's goal number one is across the board. Goal number two, and it's I think related to all of that, is that we've seen a trend of boomerangs happen. We've had amazing talent that has grown up in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. This is home for them, but they felt that maybe they had to leave for their career. The startup they were doing, maybe it was in the hard tech space and they felt that they had to be someplace else. That we've removed those barriers and that they can come home and make this the place that they can take that next phase. I think there's an amazing opportunity for that, because our best talent, if you're the valedictorian of, your school, I want you to go to whatever college you think you should go to. And maybe even spend right after you graduate college going to whatever city you want for that first step. But if you want to come home, we want it to be the thing that brings you back and really gets that. And we can do that. It was sometimes maybe hasn't been a focus for the community where it's been, no, let's keep them at school here. Let's get them right after school.
Right.
But at minimum, let's figure out how to boomerang back. So I think that's a second thing I'd love to see. And for Blue North, that we're there still just being that foundation. I don't ever want us to be the thing that's front and center. What needs to be front and center for us is the entrepreneurs of the community. And I love if we can be behind the scenes, just making the things happen and being underneath the boulder that's being pushed up the hill.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love the boomerangs because there are so many people that do leave our region to try and think there's greener pastures on the other side. But so many people come back to our region because it is such a phenomenal place. So having initiatives like Blue North and the things that you guys are doing really does help with bringing people back, but also I would say also keeping them here too and having the intentionality around that. So that's phenomenal. What do you see as maybe the number one challenge in really achieving that huge amount of growth with Spark House, that 5 year vision? What would that kind of be for you?
Probably the one thing that we have to continue to push is a cultural mindset.
Mm.
A cultural mindset of we can do this, we deserve to have it, and let's be a leader of going after it and think big and really go after these things. You'll hear whether it's the Midwest humble or the Cincinnati nice or whatever it is that goes into it. Let's be proud of it and let's go after it and believe that we have that right to win. in that we can do it, and thus also support those that have the guts to do it and are taking that risk across the board. I'd love if we can get that cultural mindset kind of put into that of, yeah, we can accomplish it. We can do it. We can climb that mountain. And that then starts becoming contagious in the rest of the community, that it's not a question of, if, but how. And taking that and going after it. And when we then have a startup that wants to go talk to a big company about a idea that they have, something they're doing, they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's make that happen. That's a mindset that we have pockets that do it really, really well, but it's not a cultural thing yet that we can drive throughout the whole thing. So that's our biggest barrier and our biggest opportunity.
I can't agree. Yes, we are way too humble in our area, and we need to be very proud of where we are and
Mhm.
what we represent. So, rapid fire questions. Ready to have some fun?
Of course.
All right. So, what is the key to success for you?
I would say the key has been the power of network. Early on, I kind of had a realization I'm never going to be the smartest guy in the room, but if I can know who's going to be that smartest guy and I can connect them, that's where that opportunity is. And today, the seeds of a lot of what I've been able to do were planted 10, 15 years ago by the folks I had beer with, or that I had played fantasy football with, or that I made time to meet when I was going to New York to meet with my agency partners. You plant the seeds and you watch them grow. And that power of that network has been something that I get to reap the benefits in my 40s of the seeds I planted in my 20s.
That's awesome. So, what is your one piece of advice that you would give to business owners?
Yeah, it's related to that. In business, there's always going to be the next fire that you have to do, or the next thing on your to-do list, or the next priority, etc. And
Mhm.
you can be so busy being busy and just being focused and doing all those tasks, where you need to create. There's a great book that a good friend of mine wrote called Get Lucky. And it's all about the concept of planned serendipity. And what one of the concepts they have in there is that serendipity comes from motion. And
Mm.
motion cannot be accomplished if you look at your last 5 days and where you went and who you interacted with were the same people every single day. You have to expose yourself through motion into different places. With that, I would really encourage business owners to think about the motion in their own lives. The good and the bad of humans are we are creatures of habit. But if you are going to the same coffee shop every single day after dropping off your kids at school or on your way to work, and you're interacting with the same people every day, you're going to probably stay in the same position. How can you put yourself in motion to get that exposure? And that means not networking in the word networking, but pick a different coffee shop to have that meeting when you catch up with a friend. Pick that different place that you go to have lunch, and just see what happens when you start having that motion. Go to a different event that you maybe haven't gone to before, and just see what seeds you can plant and where that motion kind of drives you.
Yes. I also love the busyness does not equal business.
Yes,
That
very
might
much
be
so.
a saying that we say. So, what is a book or podcast that you're reading or listening to right now?
Yeah, so there's on the podcast side, I there are two that are the must listens to for me. One is Founders by David Samra. So Founders is he is reading as many biographies and autobiographies as he can of the
Mm.
world's greatest leaders and entrepreneurs. And what I love about it is the threads that he's able to connect from some of our most successful business leaders, and the lessons and the insights and the things that you can take away. So that one, top of the list of a great thing to listen to. And they're not short by any means. I think he's on, something like episode 350 of them. So there's a lot you can catch up on, to say the least. So love those, and all the things you can get from that I don't want to say saves you from reading a lot of those books, but will get you the threads and the connection points of a lot of them. So that's top of the list. And then the second is a series called Acquired. And Acquired is uh, created by two gentlemen that come from a background in the venture capital world. They were both up in Seattle originally doing the work. One of them, Ben Gilbert, is actually an Ohio native, though. He's got ties to Columbus, and that's actually where I originally met him back probably 12 years ago now. But their shows are a breakdown and analysis of the history of history's greatest companies and the lessons that you can learn from how those companies have built, the choices that they made, and how they've gotten to where they are now are absolutely unbelievable. And they are, almost college classes in themselves.
Yeah.
Each episode is 3 to 4.5 hours. So it is not a short listen, but it is an amazing, amazing breakdown of the companies we all admire and how did they get there and what are the choices that kind of led to where they are today.
Yeah, I caught one of those about Starbucks.
Yep.
And and we, yeah. I mean, you can even like there's no words. The like what they cover and what you get out of it. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
recommendation.
that one's a great one because it tells the story of it was mentioned in one of Howard Schultz's books of the influence that Bill Gates Sr. had in the origins of
Yeah.
Starbucks. And, Howard Schultz had the opportunity to buy the three original Starbucks. And there was a gentleman that they very nicely have left unnamed in the story that was going to destroy the deal. And Bill Gates Sr. went in and said, "You will not do this and you will back away right now."
Yes.
Those are the moments that the world could have pivoted and changed immensely. And the influence that building a relationship with somebody and making a bet on a person, that's pretty powerful.
And this is why we network because you never know where you're going to wind up, what you're going to wind up in. And as business owners, executive directors, the more people we know, not only in our region, but the more that we can advocate for one another and lift one another up, it's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the powerful thing with it is, and it's a comment that Schultz kind of made in it, is it's about relationships and that there are strong relationships and loose relationships. He did not have a strong relationship with Bill Gates. He'd interacted with him a few times, but Bill Gates Sr., as Schultz said, was on a different echelon of the business world. But he had a chance to interact with him, not network in the dirty sense of that word, but build a relationship in a loose, you can see how I operate, how I think, what my ethics are, what drives me, why I do what I do. And that's why Bill Gates Sr. was willing to step in. He said, "I have trust in this person that his interactions with me have been noble, and I have faith he's going to do what's right." And so, how do you build those relationships and focus on some that are deep, some that are loose connections, but they're still relationships and connections?
Yes. And that's the beauty and why I'm so excited for Spark House because I see it each and every day. For my clients, the people I'm coaching, the people I interact with, there's a huge need. So, fun question. If you had a little bit of magic dust that you could choose one spot in the business to sprinkle on, what would it be?
I would say the spot I would want to sprinkle is the ability for people to play that role early on to help entrepreneurs when they need it the most. And
Mm,
the reason I say help can mean a lot of different things at that moment. That help could be the ability to make an introduction that is that linchpin introduction that somebody needs. It might be the ability to make that small investment that is the thing that entrepreneur needs at the moment that allows them to do the inventory order that they needed. Or it can be as simple as that word of encouragement that gave somebody the final push and the belief to do it. So the magic dust would be able to know what is that thing that that person needs at the time and be able to give it. And I'll
Yes.
use the example of, it actually came from one of the founders' podcasts, that early on, Henry Ford had a chance to meet Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison was, I think, about 30 years his senior at the time. And at the time, Ford idolized what Edison had done, etc.
Hmm.
And Edison looked at him at one point after he was pitching what he was doing with Ford, and he said, "Son, you have the thing, just go do it." And Henry Ford looks back and he said, that simple encouragement from one of the world's greatest entrepreneurs and innovators is what gave me the confidence to do it. He didn't need his money. He didn't need his connections. He didn't need his introduction. He just needed those words. And everybody's going to have a different thing that they need at that moment. And if which each could help give it to them, that would be the magic dust.
Yeah. Very well said. It's it's very beautiful. So, what is most inspiring to you today?
For me, inspiration is, I'm father of 12-year-old twins, scary enough, soon to be 13-year-old twins here in a couple of weeks. It's making this place the place that they want to continue to call home, not the place that they think they have to escape from necessarily. And the optionality to decide what that is, that's kind of what motivates me and inspires me every day.
I love that because, yes, I have two kids of my own. They're now young adults. So we are living in that space currently. So
Yeah.
thank you. All right. Well, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed hearing your story and even Blue North, the things to come. So thank you so much for sharing. We are super blessed to have you today and to be able to have the conversation and to enlighten our audience too. So I just encourage all of you watching, save this show, come back, watch it again, because Dave really had some great insights. And especially for our startups, need to get down to Blue North, get to Spark House, be there at Startup Cincy, be present, be known, and be visible. So don't forget, like and subscribe to our channel so that you can get notifications every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. It is very appreciative. And special thanks, of course, to Dave North, or well, Dave Knox at Blue North. I just squished it all together. Our executive director for being with us today. We really appreciate you, everything that you do for our region, and thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.